The grand hall of the concordance hummed with a low melodic frequency designed to soothe the many species in attendance. It was a celebration, a unification gala following the tedious formalities of the latest interstellar trade accords. Among the glittering throng of diplomats and nobles moved Princess Illyra of the Celestial Draconids, her iridescent scales catching the light in soft rainbows, her slender crest denoting her royal lineage. She moved with practiced grace, but a keen observer might note the slight tension in her coiled tail, the way her large, opalescent eyes darted with thinly veiled disdain. Her entourage, a carefully selected group of young Draconid scions and a few sycomorphic diplomats from the Sycamore systems, clustered around her. A necessary function, one of them was saying, his frills fluttering in a sigh. But the company is so varied. Another gestured with a delicate, three-fingered hand towards a group of hulking brooder from the mining guilds, their rocky hides clinking against crystal goblets. Indeed, it is like a garden where only the most refined blossoms should be permitted to grow, yet weeds are given the same space. Princess Illyra listened, her own feelings of superiority mingling with a profound boredom. She was a specimen of ancient culture, of refined biological engineering, surrounded by what she perceived as galactic commoners. Her gaze swept the room, over the floating glimmerfolk, the chittering insectoid cartographers, all so alien, so utterly lacking in the Draconid's natural grace. Then her eyes stopped. In a shadowed alcove, away from the main press of bodies, stood a human. He was alone, seemingly a part of the human diplomatic contingent, though he wore none of their formal badges. He was not remarkable by human standards, perhaps, of average height, with close-cropped hair and a simple, dark suit that seemed almost austere amidst the galactic finery. He was not drinking. He was not speaking. He was simply observing, his hands clasped loosely behind his back, his posture relaxed but alert. There was something in his stillness that stood out against the constant, rippling motion of the hall, something in the calm assessment of his gaze as it moved from species to species, taking in details without judgment. To Princess Illyra, he looked like an anchor in a sea of frivolous chaos, a solid, quiet point of reality, a plan, sudden and deliciously rebellious, formed in her mind. It would be a statement, a quiet joke for her and her friends, a way to elevate herself above the need to engage with the truly important but tedious ambassadors. She would claim this quiet, insignificant-looking human as her own. It would be a gesture of such casual ownership that it would amuse her circle and reinforce her position of whimsical authority. She leaned towards her companions, a sly smile touching her lips. She gestured subtly with her chin towards the alcove. "See that creature there? The human in the shadow." Her friends followed her gaze, their expressions curious. "The quiet one? He seems unimportant." "Precisely," Illyra said, her voice a low musical whisper meant only for them. "Watch." She drew herself up, her scales shimmering with intent. Then, clearly and loudly enough for her immediate group and anyone in the near vicinity to hear, she declared, "That one there, that is my companion." The words hung in the air. Her friends tittered, understanding the game. The human in the alcove had heard. His head turned, and his eyes, a calm and steady brown, met hers. He did not look surprised, or honored, or offended. He simply looked. Then he gave a single, slow nod of acknowledgement and began to walk towards her. A slight frisson of unease went through Illyra, but she quashed it. This was her stage. The human approached and stopped at a polite distance, his hands still behind his back. "You called for me?" His voice was even, devoid of the servile tone she expected. "I did," Illyra said, gesturing magnanimously. "You are to be my companion for the evening. You will attend me." Again, that simple nod. "As you wish." The evening proceeded. Illyra paraded through the hall, the human a silent step behind and to her left. She pointed out various dignitaries to her friends, offering whispered, cutting critiques, always with the unspoken understanding that the human was part of the decor, a testament to her power to command even a sentient being on a whim. He never spoke unless directly addressed with a question, and his answers were always brief and factual. During a lull, as Alara sampled a luminescent nectar, one of her sycamore friends addressed the human directly. "Tell me, companion, what is your function in the human delegation? You do not wear their insignia." The human turned his gaze to the sycamorph. "I am an observer." "An observer?" The sycamorph trilled. "How passive. Do you not engage?" "I engage when necessary," the human replied, his eyes drifting back to the room. Alara found his calm irritating. She wanted a reaction, some sign that he understood his role as a prop in her performance. "Perhaps you observe because you have no notable skills to contribute," she suggested. Her tone light but edged. The human looked at her, and for the first time, she saw something flicker in those brown depths. Not anger, but something older, deeper. "Perhaps," was all he said. The incident that changed everything was not a grand attack. It was a simple failure of technology. A power coupling in the hall's anti-gravity field generators, overloaded by the energy signatures of so many different species, gave way with a sharp crack and a shower of sparks. The section of the floor where Alara and her group stood, along with several brooder and a clutch of fragile glimmerfolk, suddenly lost its stabilizing field. The artificial gravity, set to a standard galactic norm, became the only force at work. The result was not zero gravity, but a chaotic lurching tilt as the secondary stabilizers fought to compensate. The floor canted at a 40-degree angle. Galera shrieked, her claws scrabbling for purchase on the now smooth, polished surface. Her friends tumbled, a shrieking tangle of limbs and frills. One of the brooder bellowed, sliding and threatening to crush the smaller glimmerfolk beneath its mass dot. In the midst of the screams and confusion, the human moved. He did not slide. He dropped into a crouch, his balance perfect, his low center of gravity defying the tilt. He was a study in controlled motion. In 2 swift strides, he was beside the tumbling brooder, not trying to stop its massive bulk, but placing himself between it and the glimmerfolk. He braced, not with sheer strength, but with precise leverage, redirecting the brooder's slide just enough for the glowing sprites to flutter clear. Then he turned towards Alara. She was slipping, her scales offering no grip. He moved up the inclined floor as if it were level ground, seized a heavy banner pole from its shaking fixture, and thrust it towards her. "Grip here." His voice was a command, sharp and clear, cutting through her panic. She wrapped her claws around it, anchoring herself. He did not stop to comfort her. He was already moving, using the banner pole as a pivot to swing towards her tumbling sycamore friend. He caught the diplomat by a trailing robe, halting a dangerous slide towards a jagged console. "Steady," he said, his voice dropping back to its calm tone. "The backups are engaging." As if on cue, the gravity field snapped back to normal with a heavy thrum. The floor was level again. The hall was in disarray, filled with the sounds of shock and relief. Medical drones zipped into the room. Ely Rose stood, clutching the banner pole, her breath coming in rapid gasps. She watched as the human helped her sycamore friend to his feet, checked briefly on the brooder, who gave a grateful rumble, and then made his way back to her. He was not even out of breath. He stopped before her. "Are you injured, Princess?" She could only stare. The silent, passive observer was gone. In his place was a figure of breathtaking, quiet capability. He had not fought. He had not roared. He had assessed, calculated, and acted with a efficiency that was more awe-inspiring than any display of brute force. He had saved lives, including hers, without a second thought, Her friends gathered around, their earlier disdain replaced by stunned silence. The sycamorph diplomat bowed its head slightly towards the human. "You have our thanks. Your actions were remarkably adept." The human inclined his head. "It was necessary." Illyra found her voice, but it was small, stripped of its royal pride. "You said you were an observer." "I am," he replied, meeting her gaze. "But my observation is not passive. It is tactical. My function is to understand environments, assets, and threats, to calculate stability and instability." He paused, glancing at the now humming gravity generator. This hall had 17 points of structural and systemic vulnerability. The power coupling was the third most likely to fail. I was positioned to respond to failures in 5 of the top 7 scenarios. The truth settled over Illyra like a cold mist. He was not a passive attendant. He was a guardian, a specialist. Her claiming of him as a companion had been a hollow charade. He had allowed it, not out of submission, but because it placed him in an optimal position to fulfill his actual duty, which was, she now understood, the protection of all beings in this hall. Her pride, her game, had been seen, understood, and utilized by this quiet human for a purpose far greater than her own. She had seen a simple creature and claimed him as her own. Now she saw the man, and she felt unbearably small. The title she had so carelessly bestowed, companion, felt like a profound and fitting truth, but one she was utterly unworthy to utter. She lowered her crest, a draconid sign of deep respect, and in this case, abject shame.